Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 3 in the book of James. That is, we're just starting in the book of James. We're in chapter 1. And he just opens the letter and he just kind of goes right into the good stuff. He calls himself a servant. He says, you guys are dispersed. That is, you're in a little bit of trouble. And then he says, count it joy when you meet trials. That is, hello, trouble. I'm glad to see you. So you have to put on a whole new hat to hang in there with James so far, or at least I have. So here's the passage for today. I'm going to start in verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, well, who of us has enough wisdom? Let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He's a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. And then for today, let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation and the rich in his humiliation, because, like a flower of the grass, he will pass away. For the sun rises with its scorching heat and withers the grass. Its flower falls, its beauty perishes. So also will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuit. Verse 12 is kind of the theme verse. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. So the whole section, and we're actually only halfway through it, is about trials. And what's the deal with trials? We're going to need wisdom. We're going to need faith to get through them. And the faith is going to be in him and in his given wisdom. So what's the deal with trials? The trials are supposed to have an effect. The ESV commentary said it's a life of faithful endurance amidst trouble and affliction. That's what the author's trying to get us towards. The trials is to make us steadfast. The steadfastness is completing our faith, maturing our faith, making us maybe not worldly happy, because who wants trials, but spiritually happy. So he's saying we need wisdom. Who doesn't have enough of that? And what is wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge rightly applied to reality. That is a wisdom that's sourced by God, given by God, and demonstrates a faith in him, a solid faith without waffling and waves and being double-minded. All right, so he talks about trials being where the rubber meets the road. And he talks about two groups of people that are going to get trial today. The lowly brother and the rich brother. So he's going to give two specific examples of people that are being trialed. And my goodness, the applications are amazing for us. So who gets trialed? Who gets tempted? And he's going to talk about the trial of poverty or lowliness, the trial of power, the trial of position, the trial of wealth. So he starts with the lowly brother, and he says that lowly brother, that's the trial. And then here's the answer to the trial, which is he needs to boast in his exaltation. So maybe he's lowly of position or strength or of beauty or of money. Any of the characteristics of the world, I think, apply to the quote-unquote lowly brother. Well, what happens when he becomes a Christian? He becomes a part of this amazing family of God with an inheritance and spiritual riches, and he's been given a critical gift to be exercised in the church. And he gets this elevated position. That is the rules of the church. The rules of Christianity are upside down. They're countercultural. They're different. And so the lowly person is like hyper valued. And what might that lowly person be called to do? That is, have his trials with effect. Maybe it's suffering well. Maybe it's serving well. Maybe it's having faith without doubt. Maybe it's exercising wisdom from the ragged position that person supposedly is in. So that's one trial, the trial of lowliness. The second trial is one of richness. So if you are a rich person in, let's say, money or position or strength or beauty, If you're rich in those things, the things of the world, well then welcome to the church, because the church is a great place to go and eat humble pie. It's there you're going to find younger people who are wiser and more faithful. You're going to find lowly people who surpass you in these ways, and it's going to be a real challenge. You have to do this right. Remember, the things that you have are going to be crushed and disappear and are fleeting, and you have to identify with Jesus, he's the greatest example of humility. So the cautions are to both sets of people. If you're a lowly person, be careful if you're lowly. Welcome to the trial of the testing of lowliness. Make sure that you have faith and make sure it's proven. Ask for wisdom. Who has enough of it? Nobody. Make sure you ask to the right God that is generous and giving, and let's have the right view of God, and let's ask in the right way. Similarly, if you have the trial of riches, be careful of the riches. Riches is a trial. It's a testing, and you could be proven wrong. So be careful there. Similarly, ask to the right God. Ask in the right way. Ask for faith. And remember how fleeting it is. The lowly person is to remember his exaltation. The rich person is to remember how quickly it may be fleeting. So whether you're rich, poor, high, or low, you are being tested, and ask for wisdom and then try to apply it. So the answer sheet, at least for these two temptations and testings, if the lowly, boast in your elevation. If you're rich, boast in your humiliation. So we want to make a faithful assessment of the trial. That is, open your eyes. You're in a trial. If you're lowly, you're in a trial. If you're rich, you're in a trial. Your faith of who God is being tested. What is he like? That's being tested. What is it that he wants? How does he get what he wants? Trials, by the way. And then what is your job in the trial? So be careful. I think this is saying, if you're a lowly brother, be careful and do this right. If you're a rich brother, be careful. You want to do this right as well. So what is the trials for? Richness and lowliness? It's to make us produce steadfastness and let it have its complete effect. So these two examples today are used to open our eyes at least to one kind of trial. Thanks for listening to the rich, and thanks for listening from the lowly. I'll see you tomorrow.